Okay, so yesterday, after 106 days of being at war, we finally got a ceasefire, and this time it actually feels like a real ceasefire. This is the message that Donald Trump posted on his birthday, believe it or not. On his birthday, he posted the ceasefire. It says, "The deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete. Congratulations to all. I hereby authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz and simultaneous herewith authorize the immediate removal of the United States naval blockade. Ships of the world, start your engines, let the oil flow, Donald J. Trump." So on his birthday, Trump drops this message 106 days at the end of the war. And this time it actually does feel like it's the end of the war. This time it actually does feel like the war's over. And the reason why I say that is because it came from Trump. It was, as you can see, it was actually posted by Trump at 11:29 p.m. on our time, 11:29 p.m. And then if you look over here, it was retweeted by our Newswire service. This is 247Wire. It is a new free news service account that you guys can use. Literally just follow them at 247Wire. But this one literally within milliseconds of the announcement coming out on True Social actually announced it. The Iranians also confirmed it this time. So we have had a lot of deals in the past where, Trump said it, but Iran hasn't confirmed it. Now we kind of got the Iranians confirming it and Trump confirming it. So it feels like it's a real deal. And if you look at the Strait of Hormuz, and I'll actually do a live crossover to one of the videos of the Strait of Hormuz, what you'll see is that the ships are actually starting to travel through the Strait of Hormuz. So you got markets reacting now. And I guess the one market that's also reacting is Bitcoin. And this is what people don't understand. They don't understand how bullish this is exactly. And this is what I really want to spend time talking about on the show today. Yes, the war is over. It seems like the war is finally close to it, and I'm quite reluctant to say that, but it does feel like the war is finally over. And the markets are responding. And when I say the markets are responding, all markets are responding, including Bitcoin. And this is the bullish part. This is what I want to talk to you about. I want to show you why this little move over here, this 3-day little move over here, is an exceptionally bullish move for markets. And I want to talk about whether it's enough to actually get us back so that we invalidate the 4-year cycle or invalidate this bear market phase or whatever else you want to call it. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Also talking about altcoins, because a lot of the altcoins are actually running. Just look at the bubbles here. Crazy. This one's up 91%. WorldCoin, Zcash, all the ones in our portfolio. WorldCoin, Zcash, Near, all are the biggest movers today. Those are the ones in our portfolios. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about why they're running, because they're not only running because of the war, they're also running because of the government's ban on 𝗕𝗏𝗙 Fable, which we're going to talk about in the show. So today is a big show. It's like a jam-packed show today. Let's get the show on the road, guys. All right, I do have sound again. 𝗕𝗏𝗁𝗏, rise and shine. Beautiful green day today, the end of the war, one day after Trump's birthday. I mean, it's quite prolific, but also you can kind of say it was probably planned that these guys had the deal signed on, or not signed, but approved on the 14th of June, which is Trump's birthday. Be that as it may, today we've got markets absolutely celebrating. We've got oil down to $79 a barrel, and that is from a high of about $112 a barrel during the war. We have the S&P 500 indicating to open up, well, it's actually open now. These are the futures, and the market's open 1.46%. Then you've got the NASDAQ up 3.19%, believe it or not, 3.19%. You've got Bitcoin also responding, and I'm going to show you exactly why Bitcoin is responding. It has something to do with this chart over here, which I'll show you a bit later, and why this move could actually be a real move. I think that's going to be quite a big thing today. So listen, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. We're here every day. We bring you crypto love and crypto wisdom. We also bring you coverage of Kevin Warsh's first FOMC. I've got massive coverage for you on Wednesday night, Wednesday afternoon, depending where you're at. I've got 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 joining us. I've got a couple of other big guests joining us. We're going to have a big viewing party of Kevin Warsh's first FOMC. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. And if you are subscribed, obliterate the like button. What is this? 567 people and 66 likes. That means that like 10% of people that smash the like button. All right, let's talk about what actually happened yesterday and what actually caused this pump. Well, that's the dump in oil, but that dump in oil finally caused a move up in Bitcoin. I think the peace deal was coming for a long time. I mean, they were talking about the peace deal. A lot of people actually spoke about it. And I think it was probably coordinated to do it on Trump's birthday. But on Trump's birthday, he said, congratulations. The deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete. Congratulations to all. I hereby fully authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz and simultaneously herewith authorize the immediate removal of the United States naval blockade. And he talks about a toll-free moving around the Strait of Hormuz. The agreement is going to be signed in Switzerland on Friday. So they're talking about signing the agreement in Switzerland on Friday. In terms of the agreement, so the first thing is you can see the 247 wire again reported that the Pakistan Prime Minister also tweeted yesterday that this deal was actually done. But here's what the deal actually, we think what the deal actually looks like. So the first thing is it extends the ceasefire between the US and Iran for 60 days. It begins a 60-day negotiation period for technical discussion around the dismantling of Iran's nuclear program. And from what I understand, obviously I haven't seen the deal, but from what I'm reading, it's a full disarmament of all the Iranian nuclear capabilities. They're talking about, obviously both sides are going to lift their blockade. So Iran's going to lift its blockade and the US is simultaneously going to lift its blockade so the ships can actually start moving out of the Strait of Hormuz. And that's, of course, why the oil price is doing what the oil price is doing. You can see that the oil price is actually back down to $79 a barrel. Now, why that's so interesting is if you look at just before they were attacked. So if you look at here, the attack happened on 28th of Feb. So it happened somewhere here. Where is that? So somewhere here. The oil price was about $70 a barrel. So now we're at $79 a barrel. I'm going to show you why I don't think that the oil price is going to come down much more than it is. So I don't know if that's the trade that you really want to be taking. But the other part of this deal that they're talking about is they're talking about reparations. They're talking about, I've read numbers of $300 million sanctions, reparations. They'll commit to discuss sanction relief with Iran. They will commit to discuss the release of frozen funds, and they're talking about $12 billion worth of frozen funds. Again, this is all hearsay. We don't know exactly what it is. It says here, experts skeptical of Tehran claims that the US will unfreeze $12 billion before the talks. They're talking about $300 billion in a post-war investment fund, which you'll remember I told you that this is what I thought was going to happen. There's going to be a fund that was going to set up for insiders, and they were going to reap the benefits of rebuilding Iran, which is exactly what I think is basically going to happen. What else is there in this deal? Peace deal includes permanent end to fighting on all fronts, including Lebanon. Final deal to be signed on Friday in Switzerland. We expect to receive more details shortly. We are again looking for more details all the time. We're looking. A lot of people are contrasting this deal with the one that Obama did. I don't really want to go into it. I mean, I think effectively just the main point here is that there's going to be zero enrichment, where Obama actually left the door for enrichment. And I don't want to compare the deal because I think that's just, we're here at a deal and let's just face the fact that there is a deal. The deal has taken oil back to $79 a barrel. Now, let's just talk about the oil levels on this is the 15th of Jan. In fact, let's look at Brent. Brent might be a better read on oil. So this is more or less the attacks happened on the 28th of Feb, which is over there. You can see that over there, the oil price was $74 a barrel. Initially, oil crashed, remember, because in the war, oil crashed. People didn't realize it's going to be a long, drawn-out Strait of Hormuz oil war, and that's exactly what happened. And then we got to about $114 to $115 a barrel on oil. Now, as we look at Brent crude oil, it's at about $80, and that's quite a key level. You can see that when you look at it here, it's quite a key level. The reason why, the trade on oil is the following. If the peace deal actually gets done, I reckon oil probably comes back to between $75 and $80 a barrel on the Brent crude oil price. And the reason why I say it's probably not going to go much lower is because there is still a ton of demand for energy. So the war didn't go on for long enough to basically destroy demand, right? You still have a ton of demand for oil on the one hand. On the other hand, the supply of oil has been dilapidated or has been hit for quite a while. I've been reading a lot of articles and they said that there's concerns that the taps won't be back on quick or easy because remember, a lot of the facilities were bombed. 25 plus facilities were struck over 8 countries. 10 force majeures have been declared basically. So what you can see is that even though the war is now over, it's going to take time for oil to basically start flowing freely across the Western world. And that's why I say that I guess when it comes to oil before the war, if you look at where we were before the war again, let's just go back to here. Before the war, we were like hovering, this is like after the war, so like you could say here, we were hovering at around $72 a barrel. We're now back at $82 a barrel. That's amazing. I mean, that means that the petrol price or the gas prices at your pump will start going down. Flight prices, you can start booking holidays again now. Like very soon you'll actually be you'll be okay to start booking holidays again. I don't know about you guys. Let me just get something out of my pocket here. I don't know about you guys, but trying to book a vacation now with the flight prices and you take your whole family with you, it's become extremely, it's become like exorbitant, like unaffordable. And now you got oil going all the way back to these prices, so airfare prices should come down. Obviously, I don't think they're going to come down. Oh, Joanne Perry's here. Well, welcome, Joanne. Welcome. Obviously, oil prices are going to come down, but they're not going to come down, or flight prices aren't going to come down to where they were in January. But still, some amazing relief here. You can expect major drops here, right? So again, I don't think oil is just going to start flowing to the free world, to the world very quickly, but at least the war's over now. And I think that this is quite, what's the word? Perfectly timed. And the reason why I say it's so perfectly timed is because you've got the war officially ending 2 days before, 1 day before the FOMC. So remember that tomorrow, the Reserve Bank governors actually go into the FOMC meeting. The meeting is Tuesday, Wednesday. We hear from them at the end of the Wednesday meeting, and that's when Warsh is going to come out and speak for the first time. And initially, he would have had to speak about, how he's unsure about the end of the war and he's unsure about the effect on prices, etc., etc. Now he can basically stand up on stage and say, look, there was a war. The war seems to be over, and we expect prices to get back to equilibrium. And then we can expect a dovish or a bullish FOMC. Now, I want to talk a little bit about FOMC because I think it's going to be a big one, right? Imagine that you're Kevin Warsh, and imagine that you got to come out for the first time ever, and you got to announce yourself to the world. Yes, you can say, look, he has spoken already. It's not the first time that he's spoken, but this is like the first big, after an FOMC meeting, after a big meeting of him as chair or governor of the board, he's now going to speak for the first time. I think he's going to come out there and he's going to set a dovish tone. Now, we'll see this on Wednesday. We're going to cover it for you guys on Wednesday, wearing suits, obviously. And I've got Scott Malka with me. I may have James Lavish and a whole lot of others coming with me. So make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. But the most important thing is that I think that the war is now over. Warsh comes out and he's now got the license to say, look, there was a war. The war is now finished. We expect prices to come to equilibrium. We're going to look at the data, but I also think he's going to come out and say, look, we're using the wrong measurements. We must change the measurements. He's abolishing the dot plot. What you should do, by the way, is there is a new host on Banter. You should actually go and look. We'll put the video for you guys here so that you guys can see it.
If you're holding tech stocks in your portfolio, you need to watch this. Because Kevin Warsh, the man Trump put in charge of the Fed, is about to run his first FOMC meeting as chair. Here's the part that should worry you. That first meeting is your first real read on how he runs the Fed.
We'll put a link to Marty's channel below. For those of you who want to look at it, it's called Steady Finance by Martin Hill. He's our new Banter host, and he's going to be talking about the FOMC. He made his first video around that FOMC. And I think it's going to be big. And I think you should listen to this video because in this video, he breaks down how Warsh is actually removing all the things that could be bearish so that he could actually reduce rates. Things like the dot plot, things like the reading of inflation. He's going to look at the reading of inflation, X energy and X food and stuff like that. So I think that this could be pretty bullish for everything, for markets and for Bitcoin. I want to talk a little bit about markets and Bitcoin because I think that that's the elephant in the room here. So I'm extremely bullish, and I mean, if my show team actually got this correctly, I imagine that the thumbnail and the title are actually extremely bullish. Everyone's missing how explosive this move is for Bitcoin, and I think that that's what people are missing, right? And I'll show you why I think that people are missing the explosiveness of the move for Bitcoin. The first thing is that you got to look at is you got to say, okay, the first thing is Bitcoin has actually started to move up quite aggressively. On the news of the war finally ending. There was a lot of times when we thought the war was going to end, but Bitcoin has actually started to move up on this news, which means that this time it looks real. Now, how you verify that it's real is you look at Bitcoin, but then you also look at the oil price, you look at the WTI, and you say, okay, both of them are responding. This must be a real ceasefire or a real peace deal on the cards. But then I look at another chart, and this chart is Bitcoin divided by the VIX. So the VIX is the volatility index, and it shows how scared people are. And what you can see is that it bounced off this trend line that it has for a long time. Now, let's look at the numerator and the denominator for this chart. The top part of it is Bitcoin, and the second part of it is volatility. So it's almost like risk divided by volatility. So let's take Bitcoin as the ultimate macro risk asset just for a second. And you say, okay, when risk divided by volatility bottoms, it means that, we hope it's bottomed, it means that Bitcoin, that you expect risk volatility to drop or fear to drop, and you expect risk to start outperforming. That usually happens at the end of a crisis, or when people can see the end of a crisis. So think about the end of a crisis, at the end of the COVID crisis, when we saw the light of the COVID crisis, risk divided by fear started to actually run, right? Same thing around the Japan interest rate hike. When we saw the light and we had rationalized all the information, and what happened was the risk started to outperform the fear. And that's exactly what's basically happening here. So looks like the war's over. Therefore, the risk or the fear starts to dissipate, and risk starts to actually start running. And so this chart, again, just showing us the way here, showing us that like we're at a point where something needed to happen. Either we were going to break down here, or we could say that risk needs to outperform fear. Now, you may turn around and say, hold on a second, you're wrong. Because you may turn around and say that risk has actually been outperforming fear the whole time. And you may say that your proxy measurement of risk is, you could say, well, you know, the NASDAQ has been outperforming the war, basically, or has been ignoring the war for quite a while. And to an extent, I'd say, yes, you are correct. You are correct by saying, well, the NASDAQ has been outperforming. But the NASDAQ is being powered by AI. And AI is effectively an anomaly. And when I say AI is effectively an anomaly, if you look at this chart over here, it shows you the chart of the S&P, and then it shows you the chart of the S&P including AI. And you can see that there's a massive difference between the normal charts and the charts that include AI. And so what we can assume here is that AI is an absolute anomaly. And what it's doing is it is taking Joanne Perry says another cold run every Monday, Joanne, every Monday it's another cold. We're in South Africa, it's freezing cold here, we're in the middle of winter. Of course it's going to be, so what you can see is that the S&P is broken up into two parts. XAI has got a 16% return since the 25th of April, and you've got the normal S&P, which has got a 42% return, which means that right now AI is skewing the numbers of the S&P. Now, we had 𝗂 on the show last week, and we should put a link to the 𝗂 show. It was an insider. But if you haven't already checked out this interview that I did with 𝗂, he said, look, he says, Bitcoin is and has been the only honest asset in the market. So he said, look, the stock market isn't an honest asset. And the reason why it isn't an honest asset is because you've got AI lumped into this asset class, right? So you got AI, which is basically skewing the data or skewing the numbers. And Bitcoin is the only honest asset, and that's why Bitcoin hasn't really been performing well. If you look at Bitcoin since the beginning of the war, and I want to actually just pull up that chart over here. So the 28th of Feb is war. So let's just quickly go to the 28th of Feb. I think it's somewhere here. It's more or less here, right? So first Bitcoin spiked, and then it started to come down, and it actually hasn't really been performing very well relative to other markets since the 28th of Feb. And the reason is because Bitcoin actually saw through all of this and said, look, there's going to be inflation because the oil prices are high. There's going to be high inflation. We saw it in the PPI. We saw it in the CPI. And that's why actually Bitcoin started to come down. Now, you may say, well, if Bitcoin's being honest, why is the S&P not being honest, or the NASDAQ not really being honest? And the answer is very simple, is these have an AI skew where Bitcoin doesn't have an AI skew. Why am I so excited about this Bitcoin run? Because what you can see with every other escalation, and I mean, you can look at it on the VIX chart, and look, you can look at all the escalations here: Japan rate hike, tariffs, deflation scare, etc. And you look at what Bitcoin basically does after these things are resolved, right? So like you take the U.S Iran escalation or the COVID outbreak, and then you go to like the 160-day return or the 60-day return after these conflicts have actually been resolved. And what you can see is that Bitcoin outperforms all other markets, right? So outperforms the S&P, outperforms gold. Here again, outperforms the S&P, outperforms gold. Again, the election challenges, 2020 election challenges, again, Bitcoin always tends to outperform. The regional banking crisis, Bitcoin always tends to outperform. So why am I getting excited here? Because if Bitcoin indeed is the only risk asset, and the only honest risk asset, and right now the big risk to markets, which is the war. And when I say the war is one part of it, but the related inflation, because remember that inflation started to go up, and I think that had they not ended the war this soon or this quickly, then the inflation issues may have persisted. And if the inflation issues would have persisted, that has multiple risks associated with it, including a slowdown of the economy, including Trump losing the midterm elections, etc. And now what you can see is that I think that they ended the war pretty much just in time. I think if it would have carried on longer than this, I think then we would have had a little bit more of a problem, but I think it ended pretty much in time. I think go and watch the show. Hardest if you updated it, so there's the links. Okay, they're going to do it. They're going to do it over there. See, someone's trying to copy our channel here, saying crypto insiders. Oof, okay, we'll deal with that later. Yeah, so now you've got Bitcoin moving up. You've got the RSIs also moving up. You can see the RSI basically oscillates from overbought when we top to oversold when we bottom. It looked like we bottomed over here. Now the big question for me is, where does this bounce actually take us, right? And for me, there's two scenarios that I'm looking at. I think the one scenario is that we get back to this line over here, and I don't know, wherever that is, 74, 75. That would be my first point if we could get there. That's not enough though. You want to invalidate the retest and the breakdown, which means that you want to get above this level over here. I can't tell you exactly what that level is going to be because you actually have to climb to actually get there. But you want to be above this level over here. And then, like, you want to ask me about when we can be out of the woods, above 82,000. Then I think we're out of the woods. Otherwise, there is a scenario where this is just a breakdown and a retest. Okay, now you don't want the breakdown and the retest because after the retest is basically a big move down. So we're hoping that that the pattern is that we basically Bitcoin continues to outperform, breaks through the $76,000 or $77,000 level, and then we carry on moving. And that, again, let's look at the RSI. We've just had a bullish crossover of the RSIs. So let's wait and see what actually happens and how high we can actually go. You can see the same thing happened here and the same thing basically happened here. Both of them were lows for Bitcoin. So let's see where that actually takes us. It's also a good day for the altcoins. I mean, just look at the altcoins. And specifically a lot of the altcoins. I mean, you know, I'm gonna bring this up. I wasn't going to, but I'm actually gonna bring this up because I need to bring this up. The idea is to say, are you in the right coins? Are you in the right coins? Meaning, you know, when the market bounces, are you actually in the right coins? And if you look at the coins that basically we're in, like Zcash, WorldCoin, Jito, Near, those are the coins that we've been calling. Like if you go back all the way here, you can basically see Tau, which basically ran this weekend, Near, which basically ran this weekend, Zcash, which actually ran this weekend, Hyperliquid, 𝗙𝗵𝘁, Ton, 𝗕𝗵𝘇, all those are the ones that are actually moving. Now, again, I call all of those on front runners. All my calls, every move that I make in the market is on front runners. You can see that, you know, I've even told the front runner community to be buying SQD. We started buying SQD at 0.037 cents. It's now slightly higher. I think it's probably at like 4 point something cents. I mean, honestly, get yourself a bag of SQD, and I'll show you in a second why. But I think more importantly, join us in front runners, guys. You can see that we have all the receipts to prove that our portfolio is absolutely destroying it, even in this bear market. Now, like the cost of being there is like nothing compared to the amount of money you can make just by getting into one or two of the calls. Like, had you just got into SQD when I spoke about it on the weekend, you would have had, you'd be up. I had SQD at 0.32. You can see that's what it is. It's already at 0.042. That's where it is. You can still be buying it because I think it's going to go a lot higher. You can still be buying it. Let's talk about why I think it's going to go higher and why certain tokens are moving and certain tokens aren't moving. One of the big moves today, look at Jito. Oh, wow, amazing. One of the big moves today is actually a move around AI. or one of the big moves on the weekend was a move around the AI token. So if you look at the tokens that actually moved, it was tokens like Grass, it was tokens like 𝗕𝗪, which is 𝗕𝗟, it's tokens like WorldCoin, it's tokens like 𝗕𝗟. And the reason why that happened is because something which I think is pretty crazy happened over the weekend, and it comes down to the new Anthropic model, which is called Fable. So just some background. You'll remember that Anthropic said that they have this model called Mythos, and that the model is so powerful that it can find vulnerabilities in so many things that it's actually very dangerous. And so what they did was they limited the usage of Mythos. They gave it to like specific organizations, and they created like a new consumer version of it, or a new safe version of it called Fable 5. That was like the safe version of Mythos, right? And then they launched Mythos, or they launched Fable to the world. And then on the weekend, they said they pulled it off. They basically literally banned access to Fable. And they said, look, Fable has been live for 72 hours. The US government has just put it offline. So imagine that, like, there is an AI model which is developed by a private company. And that AI model was given to everyone in the whole world. But then they stopped giving it to everyone in the whole world, and they only gave it to people in the United States. Now, I mean, it is the craziest thing I've ever heard. The first thing is they're trying to control what other... So if you're not in the US, you're at a disadvantage. You can't play with the best technology. Yes, that's true. So if you're watching this from any other country in the world, unfortunately, you can't use the best available AI model out there because the US government decided to do it. Actually, it wasn't really the US government. It was the US government that was pressured by a lot of people, including the Amazon CEO, to stop access to the model. Okay, now, I mean, just get like how crazy that is. But if you do use it in the US, and this is what I tweeted the other day. I was like, if you do use it in the US, where is that tweet of mine? I got to find it, because it'll actually, if you do land up using it in the US, all your prompts, all the outputs, and all the data has basically, they actually monitoring, and they basically say that in the terms and conditions. They basically say, look, if you use Fable in the United States, your prompts and your context, in other words, all the background, all the stuff that you fed it, all the documentation, may now be surveilled. That's pretty much what they're saying. And they're doing it because they're saying, look, we have to protect, to make sure that you're not like creating bombs or trying to hack anything or whatever else. And the reason why that happened was because even on Fable, they found some kind of guardrails that could be broken down. Let me just see. I think there was a good explanation. There was a good explanation here. A government just demonstrated in real time that centralized AI has an off switch they control. Fable went dark by directive, not by choice. That's pretty much what happened. And so what you saw when that happened was you saw all the decentralized AI protocols basically start running. So you saw 𝗕𝗟 start running. Why? Because everyone said, well, you know, models can be built and trained using the 𝗕𝗪 networks, which are the 𝗕𝗟 networks, which are completely decentralized. Then WorldCoin started running because WorldCoin is the decentralized AI proxy coin in the market. The other one that started running was Venice, and that is because Venice allows you to browse or to use models without actually letting them save your history. So it's like it's an anonymous. It keeps you anonymous while using AI, which is the use case for Venice. And when people realize that how to the extent that governments are getting involved in AI, when I saw this, I was like, if you lost conviction in the industry, or you sometimes ask yourself, like, why does this industry exist? Saturday is one of those days, like, where you go, wow, the government just made a decision to basically ban our right to use the best technology in the world. Why? Because it decided. And, you know, they may decide to stop letting us use money one day as well. They may decide to stop letting us use bank accounts one day. So if you ever forget why we're here, why we're in this industry, I think that was a very good reminder. Another one that's running, Zcash and 𝗕𝗟 running. So Zcash and 𝗕𝗟 basically ran together. Remember, Zcash had the potential vulnerability. They have now come out and they basically said, look, you know, we've been, you know, everyone's talking about, you know, they've been talking about Mythos, and they actually used Mythos to find vulnerabilities. They never found vulnerabilities. I do want to remind you all, because I think that the market's forgetting this. I do want to remind you though that, yes, we think that the potential exploit on Zcash was never actually exploited, but there is a chance that it was exploited. Like, there is a chance, and we'll only know it when they move the new pool. So for now, in Zcash, everyone's looking the other way and basically saying, like, No, the protocol wasn't really exploited. The protocol wasn't really exploited. We still don't know. We'll only know when they start the new pool and people have to withdraw from the old pool and go into the new pool. And then we'll see if the new pool was actually exploited or not. Or the old pool is actually exploited or not. What else? What else is there? Let's just quickly. So remember to go and follow 𝗦𝗙𝗢. 𝗦𝗙𝗢 is our new. I mean, he's an AI guy, but you would never know because he's so fucking good. But go and check what 𝗦𝗙𝗢 has to offer. Also, let's just quickly look at a few things there because I think that's probably all worth talking about. There's a lot of stuff going on. Let's quickly just go here. Let's quickly just go. A few things there because I think that's probably all. Okay, so let's just look here in the show description. So go and look at 𝗦𝗙𝗢 on Steady Finance. There's a link for 𝗦𝗙𝗢 over there. Yeah, one of the other protocols that was also running Internet Computer. Why was Internet Computer running? Because it's the decentralized Internet Computer, right? That's, you know, it's the ultimate AI play, and I think it's starting to get a lot of traction. If you want to trade oil, I think there's a good oil trade. You can trade anything on 𝗏𝗏. When you do, you get a $50 voucher. It's got no KYC. Yeah, and if you want to join Frontrunners, there's a link over here. Guys, you've seen the calls, you've seen the receipts, you've seen the calls, you've seen the receipts. Now, it's so simple. Just go and apply, just sign up for a month. You don't like it, leave after a month, send me a mail, I'll send you back your money. It's really that simple. All right, last check of the markets before we go. Let's just quickly have a look here. Last check of the markets. How are we doing? We are at 66,500 in Bitcoin. Zcash is at $530. NEAR is at 247. 𝗬𝗏 is at 212. Hyperliquid is at $67. Binance BNB $67. I am looking at Riot. I want to get a position in Riot. Let's have a look here. ETH. Sol actually had a little bit of a pump. Solid a pump. Yeah, I'm going to talk about my strategy. I'm putting together a strategy of what you should be holding in this market. I'll put it here. Let's just quickly look at SQD since we are all we're in it. We're all in it. Let's quickly look at what the SQD price is doing. 42. So like we got in at 32. I still think that it's a good time to get in. I still think it's a very good time to get in. All right, my friends, I will see you again tomorrow. And then remember, Wednesday we've got that big Kevin Warsh viewing party. So yeah, we'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends.